Oh, man, what a time to go on a work trip for me. I was there from Sunday to Tuesday in Chicago, and I get maybe the biggest notification Colts fans has ever received on their phone since Andrew Luck retired. And here I am in a position where I'm unable to sit here and make an episode, but I guess better late than never. And this topic is going to be really tough to talk about for a couple of different reasons. One, the doom and gloom Colts fan base has absolutely taken over the dialogue on this topic. They're probably going to be in the comment section of this one before even 2 minutes passes, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to talk to those people and reason with those people and have a real conversation, right? Because we have to have an honest conversation here about Anthony Richardson. And there's so many different angles to talk about this from that I don't even know where to start, right? It's just a storyline of the highest order, right? Not saying it's like a good thing, but what a fascinating topic, right? You can talk about it from the angle of his future with the team, the decision itself to bench him and kind of where that stands, right? How does this reflect Chris Ballard and the organization, et cetera, et cetera? There's so many different ways to approach this topic. It calls for multiple episodes. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to cover it from every angle in just one. But let's just make something clear right off the bat. Throughout all of this, what I'm not about to say is that the situation we're looking at is ideal. Right? This is a tough spot for the Indianapolis Colts. It's a tough spot for Anthony Richardson, right? Don't confuse anything I'm about to say with the fact that this is somehow the best possible outcome for the Indianapolis Colts. It's obviously not. You'd have to be completely out of your mind to say something like that. But what I am about to do is bring some nuance to this because, of course, as per usual, the reaction to what we've seen has been, well, really, in my opinion, an overreaction, overblown. Really starting from the tap out, right? Because I'm going to try to humanize Anthony Richardson here just a little bit. I'm not going to let him off the hook, right? Because the tap out, that can't happen. You can't do that, right? But let's be honest now. For those of you who saw or were here before the draft where we got Anthony Richardson, was that the 2023 NFL draft? Is that what that would be called? I did not have Anthony Richardson ranked in my top 5. And I know it's convenient to say that now, but just talking off the tape alone, CJ Stroud was my number 1. I had Tanner McKee, who went in the 6th round, so take that as you may. I still think he's good. Tanner McKee was my number 2 quarterback in that draft. I had Bryce Young there at 3, really just to kind of show respect to the consensus. That was one of the most obvious busts I've ever seen at the quarterback position. I had Will Levis and Hendon Hooker also ahead of Anthony Richardson, and then Anthony Richardson sitting there at number 6. Now, it wasn't until the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson that I kind of realized what we were looking at. Because when I saw Anthony Richardson in college, what I saw was a guy that could be an elite quarterback. Like, I saw the potential. So when people said, hey, this guy Anthony Richardson is going to be big time, big deal, I understood. Like, I was like, I see the elite quarterback here. But I also see a guy that I can see complete a 10-yard hitch in college, right? I saw both of those things to be true. Now, Florida was consistently outmatched by their opposition when Anthony Richardson was there. They had one guy. They had Ricky Pearsall. And when he was there, he did pretty good, right? So, again, it wasn't until I saw Anthony Richardson post-draft, like his press conference, that I understood. I said, oh, I get it. You have a talented guy, and they're betting on the human being, right? And kind of what he could become, and just kind of betting on the fact that if he doesn't get to where he's going to be, it's not going to be due to a lack of work ethic. And again, the tap out, that obviously can't happen, right? I've never in my life, and I'm not saying anything that nobody has said before, I've never in my life seen something like that. But what I'm not about to do is take that and question his work ethic or his competitiveness, right? Like, I think Anthony works really hard. And I think he's really competitive. In fact, I think the problem oftentimes is that he's too competitive. I think we've seen that far more often than him not being competitive. I think a lot of the times when you look at Anthony Richardson and he doesn't go down and he's out here taking on contact, that's not him being an idiot. That's him being a competitor out there, right? So I think what you see out of Anthony Richardson, I wouldn't be so concerned about the character of Anthony Richardson. You saw his post press conference after getting benched, right? I do think that in terms of his character, at his age, we have a pretty unique young man here in Anthony Richardson. And just because he made an immature move, right, in tapping himself out of the game, it doesn't make him immature, right? Like, both of those things can be true, right? Just because you do something stupid doesn't make you an idiot. Just because he did something immature doesn't make him immature. I think he's very mature. Again, I think it's reflected very well in kind of the way he's handled the benching in the media right off the bat. I mean, he's 22 years old, was in the heat of a moment in the NFL in a high leverage situation and made a poor decision, right? Made a piss poor decision that displayed poor leadership. And I understand he's an NFL quarterback. He's held to a different standard, all this type of stuff. But you can't have an honest conversation about it without actually talking about that element, right? Because I know it's easy for us as fans to dehumanize the athlete, and it's a results driven league, right? And I'm not trying to let him off the hook. All I'm saying is that who he is as a person and what he's going through internally is going to reflect what you see on the field. So to have the realist conversation about it, you have to talk about that side of things, right? And that decision, that bad decision he made in the heat of the moment, just so happened to be unprecedented, right? But I see a lot of you guys make poor decisions in the comment section all the time under absolutely no pressure whatsoever. So let's not hold Anthony Richardson to a standard that we don't hold ourselves to, right? Oh, at least on any level. And again, I know some of you are going to be like, dude, what is this shit? I'm just telling you that we're overreacting just a little bit. Now, as far as the decision goes itself, right? That is a courageous decision by Shane Steichen, okay? As much as Shane Steichen has a responsibility to Anthony Richardson, he has a responsibility to the 53-man roster to put out what he believes is the best product to help them win football games, right? That's not a dumb decision by Shane Steichen. It's a courageous decision by Shane Steichen, given all of the reactions that we have seen. I mean, you guys so often coming into this season says this team doesn't care about winning, right? They just don't care about it. Like, it's not like their number one objective. And then all of a sudden you have a guy like Shane Steichen who comes in here and makes a decision that is strictly based in trying to win, right? And saying this gives us the best chance to win. And we bash him for that too. Like I don't understand what it is that we want. Like, I get it. We're hurt, right? We're in pain. We continue to see the quarterback position be one that is uncertain for the Indianapolis Colts. And I get it. But in terms of making it like this is the absolute end of the road, there's no way back for Anthony Richardson. The Colts are a dumpster fire. It's just not at all what we just saw, right? It's not what we just saw. So what we're going to talk about right now is we're going to talk about kind of what Anthony Richardson has shown so far and why this could be. Listen, I'm not saying it's likely, okay? But this could be the best thing for Anthony Richardson, and there's reasonable reason to believe that's the case. We're going to talk about it. Before we do, you know what it is. Oh, I got to introduce myself on a very sad day. My name is Justin. This right here is the Ride on the Bench Colts podcast. As always, I ask anyone enjoying the show, go ahead, shoot a like. It's going to help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. Of course, I ask anyone watching on YouTube, go ahead, shoot it a like. Did I already say that? I don't know. Whatever. Who cares about the intro? We're here to talk about the Colts. All the stuff I normally say, whatever. Subscribe, leave 5-star on the audio. Great. Okay? So, as for what we've seen out of Anthony Richardson so far, I think the tape has been okay. Like, even in this past game, right? Listen, you went 10 of 32, okay? He went 10 of 32. There's not much defending it, but I thought he looked good to start the game. I really did. Like, and there was a lot of great throws in there. And you look at his tape throughout the year, it's not so much that you're looking at a guy who doesn't look like he could play at the NFL level, at least in my opinion. Now, is he ready? No. I think we had a guy in Anthony Richardson right now that's in over his skis, okay? That's what I think is going on. I think you have a guy that's just not ready to be out there. I mean, when you think about the term project quarterback, right, and it's going to take some work, I'm not sure people fully understand what that means. Like, there was a case to be made as much. And I think now, in a situation like this where we're all raving about Anthony Richardson and he comes out and plays like this, hopefully this is a lesson that we don't know everything, right? Like, I think there was a case to be made last year that you could have sat Anthony Richardson and let him watch from the sideline, because there's two aspects to this, right? And there's not a one size fits all for development as a quarterback in the NFL. Like, sure, the idea that you have to play to get better is valid. Like, that's one way to do it, okay? But if you go in there, and how many times have we seen a quarterback in this league get put in early in his career, play bad, and the playing doesn't make him better? It makes him worse, right? And that happens with a lot of high picks. Like, if you're not playing well, you're not going to figure it out on the field, okay? All you're going to do is develop bad habits. It happens all the time. I mean, you want to go to all the Jets quarterback situations, right? I mean, I don't have any examples in front of me, so I'm saying it happens all the time, right? And then I'm not going to have a million examples to produce for you. But listen, it happens to young quarterbacks in this league all of the time. Again, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, just off the top of my head, kind of in recent memory, right? And the more he plays, if he's playing poorly, the more those bad habits are going to develop, right? And before you know it, you're damaged goods. And I think maybe Shane Steichen saw that happening and said, let's get him out of here before this is something that's completely unsalvageable. I mean, that's my best guess, right? I still think the move was about Anthony Richardson, right? It wasn't about giving up on Anthony Richardson. It's about what they deemed to be best for Anthony Richardson. Now, of course, the idea of him getting benched, not ideal. But you look historically, again, not saying he's any one of these guys and not saying this is how it normally goes. I'm trying to prove a different point. But you look, John Elway, Troy Aikman, Terry Bradshaw, these guys all benched as young quarterbacks went on to have Hall of Fame careers. My only point in saying this is that you don't know how this is going to go for Anthony Richardson. Like, when you say a move like this is going to kill his confidence, what you're saying, whether you realize it or not, is that it would kill your confidence, right? You're looking at the situation and saying, what would that do to me? Or what did someone else tell me is going to happen here? And you're now repeating that, right? But you don't know Anthony Richardson like that, right? Again, his confidence is his greatest strength, in my opinion, but maybe also his greatest weakness, right? Like, when you think about it now in hindsight, some of the things he has said where it's like, I just, I don't have to change the way I play the game, or nobody can do what I do as a quarterback, and all this type of stuff, like, who can stop me? Sure, it displayed confidence, but perhaps there was a level of overconfidence. Like, perhaps it was like he didn't really understand. Like, I think Richardson wants to put in the work, and he wants to do what it takes to be a great. I don't question that part of things. But does he really understand what that means, right? That might be what it is that we're looking at right here. And as much as going in and playing is a thing that people are going to say is what you need to do to get better, there are absolutely benefits to watching on the bench. I know there's some of you that don't believe that, but have you ever been in a stressful situation in your life, and then the best thing that ever happened to you was for you to just be able to separate yourself from it, look at it from a distance, and kind of without the pressure of having to be involved? Like, that's all it is for Anthony Richardson. You get to look at Joe Flacco, who's done it at a high level, has won a Super Bowl, and is an old man. Even Gardner Minshew last year, he was a veteran, but he was 26 years old. Joe Flacco is the truest form of a veteran. Is he not the oldest player in the NFL at this point? I mean, Anthony Richardson was in over his skis. Now he gets to come out, he gets to watch, and he gets to evaluate this in a way that is not where he has to figure it out in the national spotlight, but instead gets to do it in a little less pressured of a situation, right? This is adversity for Anthony Richardson. A lot of people saying that he has not dealt with adversity. This is it. A lot of people saying there's no accountability in the Colts organization. Is benching Anthony Richardson not the definition of accountability, whether you like it or not, whether we like the outcome or not? Is accountability not saying the best quarterback on our roster right now is our backup, we have to make him the starter? Is that not the definition of accountability? Like, listen, I'm not saying you have to be happy that this has played out the way it has, but let's not now parlay that into saying that this was just like the worst and completely dysfunctional. I think it displays a lot of things that we kind of wanted to see as Colts fans. We wanted to see accountability. We wanted to see a team that cared about winning, right? I think both of these moves by Shane Steichen do that. And again, just courageous by Shane Steichen, knowing what the blowback was going to be. Now, Will this ultimately be what propels Anthony Richardson to be the franchise quarterback of the Colts? I don't know, right? As Shane Steichen says, you can't predict the future. But I'll tell you something. If Anthony Richardson is going to be the guy for this team, if he is the franchise quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, he'll respond well to this move, right? But in the meantime, all we can do is kind of just watch it play out and enjoy Joe Flacco in the process. Does it suck to have another old man back there? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But we've seen Joe Flacco play well. You wonder, is the move so much about Anthony Richardson? Because so far his rookie year had been, at least statistically speaking, comparable to Josh Allen's rookie year through the same amount of time. But was it more about Anthony Richardson and his inability to play? Like, you wonder, right? Like Josh Allen in his rookie year, behind him, right? Who were the quarterbacks for the Bills? They had Nathan Peterman and someone else who couldn't play, right? Like the Colts had a guy in Joe Flacco that they knew could come in and play good football. And, I think that had something to do with it. Like, I think if Sam Ehlinger was the backup, I don't think they would have benched Anthony. Like, I think it's just as much about the confidence in Flacco as it is kind of Anthony's, struggles right now. And I do think that ultimately, again, if Richardson's the guy, this is obviously going to be a moment for him. But he'll learn from it and he'll bounce back well. And if he doesn't, he was never the guy. I don't view this as a confidence-killing move. I think that's a little bit of a cliche. I think that means your confidence would be killed. Anthony Richardson's a confident kid. He's a confident guy. He's a special person. And we're going to kind of see how it goes. But in the meantime, again, that's it. I mean, that's what I've got. We're going to talk about it ad nauseum, basically, until the game preview. Like, this is not going to be the last thing I talk about with it, but I wanted to get my initial thoughts out there because I'm late on it. And until next time, my name is Justin. This right here was the Ride the Bench Colts podcast. And as always, hell, go Colts.